Up in the Big Game Hunter, and welcome to this week's episode of Career Coach Office Hours. I'm just need to type something into chat, and it just says, if you have a question for me, feel free to put it into chat. I'll try and get it answered in the course of today's show. And I've been doing this weekly now for probably about 2 months. I know it's been helpful to a lot of you because I get messages from folks, not just simply from LinkedIn, but from Facebook and from YouTube, where the show is appearing on all three simultaneously. I worked in search for a long time and filled more than 1,200 full-time positions, plus consulting assignments. And I'll just simply say that in the work that I do now as a coach, I help people perform at a high level. And that's around the job search, hiring more effectively, managing and leading workplace-related issues. And if you have a question for me, what you can do, hi, Cheryl, you can put it into chat, or if it's after the show is done, email me at thebiggamehunter@gmail.com. In the subject line, put the phrase Career Coach Office Hours or Office Hours, something along those lines, so I know what it's about. If I can get to it before Friday, it's my pleasure. If I can't, at a minimum, you know I'm coming to you on Friday. And I've got a number of questions from people that I received that I think would be fun to address today. And I'll just simply say I wasn't sure I was going to be able to do this. I was scheduled to speak to a group, but they didn't sell enough seats, so it got canceled, and I'm back today. And thus, the first question for today, let me just bring it up on the screen so I have access to it. There we go. What information can recruiters gather about you through LinkedIn? Great question. And I'll start off with, they can find out anything about you that's on your profile. And that can include articles that you've written, people that are similar to you, basic contact information that you've made available, who you're working for, what you do for that firm. And remember, LinkedIn sells a service called LinkedIn Recruiter to corporate and third-party recruiters so that they can find out about you, because that's part of the way LinkedIn makes money. So on their side, on a recruiter side, they're messaging you in order to make a connection with you, so that in this way they can try and fill a job with you. It's really that simple. Recruiters are paid to fill jobs by corporations, so anything that's in your public profile is available. Now, if you're looking at them and you've turned on privacy, they can't see that you looked at their profile. But anything that is in your profile, any articles that you've written, any videos that you've put up, anything that you're connected with is stuff that I didn't say anyone, anything that you're connected with is something that they can view because it's associated with your profile. So that's really what they can see, and you can't really block it from them because LinkedIn wants to sell that to you. Okay, so question number 2, is it customary to get a job offer and then submit to a background check, or do they send you the offer only after you pass the background check? If it's the first, how do you give your 2 weeks notice without knowing the outcome? Now, great question. And you'll hear me say that a lot because these are things I haven't addressed in my almost 7,000 videos on YouTube at jobsearchtv.com, or on my podcast, No BS Job Search Advice Radio, which remains the #1 podcast in Apple Podcasts for job search, with more than, the podcast has 2,100 episodes at this point over more than 10 years. And I've covered, obviously, a lot. And these are things I haven't covered before, so I enjoy them. So normally, you'll be orally told the offer, and they'll say it's contingent upon a background check. Now, the background check, and I just want to be clear, there's a background check, and there's one where they're going to contact your employer post-employment to verify that you've told them the truth on the application. When I think of the background check, I think in terms of reference checks, backgrounds, reviews of your financials to ensure that you haven't gone through a bankruptcy, things along those lines as part of a background check. Some firms, do drug testing. Again, I'm not addressing that. But in terms of background versus verification of dates and wages and things like that, the background check, don't give you notice until such time as you've gotten notice that you've cleared that. In terms of dates and wages and things like that, did you tell them the truth? If not, then you have a problem. And you can correct it. But in terms of whether you could give notice before getting cleared, don't give notice about your background check. Kevin, how are you? Again, someone else in chat. So recognize that there are people who are lying and will be caught in the lie when the employer contacts your previous firm to verify dates and wages. In terms of the background check that I'm addressing, first of all, have you gone through a bankruptcy? Is there anything in your criminal history that's problematic? Those kind of things can be done pre-employment. Post-employment, you know whether you're being truthful, and if you're not sure in the application, put the phrase approx for approximately, so this way they know you weren't absolutely sure and thus weren't deceiving them. Next question. Does changing my profile to private mode on LinkedIn prevent employers/recruiters from finding me? The answer is no. What private mode is about is when you're looking at someone, they can't see that you looked at their profile. And thus, on their side, it says LinkedIn member rather than your name. And the only issue with that, which most of you don't have a concern about, is your data. You don't collect any data as a result of that. And there is some useful things that you can find out. Conversely, one of the things that you don't get is those messages in reply, like I used to send when I did recruiting. Hey, LinkedIn told me that you looked at my profile. Was there anything in particular you were looking for when you looked at my profile? And thus, there were people who came to me who I was able to fill jobs with and who I was able to reposition into new roles that allowed them, because I was able to see who they were, I was able to help them find work. When you're in private mode, doesn't exist. So that's really the issue with the private mode. And if you're okay with it, it's great. No issue whatsoever. It's your choice. But you miss out on something if you go there. Okay. The next question, how do employers get an idea of how long someone will stay in a job? The answer is, it's almost like a mutual fund. Past performance is an indicator to them. So if you're someone who's changed jobs for 3 months here, 6 months there, 4 months here, 8 months there, they get the idea of you being a job hopper because they can see that from your past behaviors. And you can say, I was in temp roles. It was the nature of the assignment. That's fine. What I would say is on your profile, on your resume, you aggregate all those dates into one category and say temporary work or consultant, as the case might be. And this lets them know you were just consulting during that period of time and weren't necessarily a job hopper. They'll explore that with you on the interview. Of course, you get the interview, but what they're looking for is past performance, past behavior on your part to get an idea as to whether or not you might be a job hopper. Next question for today. Is it a red flag if all the interview questions are easy? I'm currently up for a government contracting position I'm really hoping to get. I had my second round interview on Wednesday where I met with the project manager, the team lead, and the team. Looking back, all the questions I was asked were pretty typical, normal interview questions that I was able to easily answer. Now I'm wondering if that's something I should be concerned about since they all felt too easy. Wow. You can't win sometimes as an employer. People complain about the tough interviews, and this one's worried about the easy interview. And I'll just simply say what happens here. Sorry, I lost restream there for a second. There we go. What happens, and if we were talking about private sector, I would be concerned. In the private sector, often the easy interview is because they're at least trying to be courteous to someone. On their side, they may have already chosen someone, and they don't want to put you through a meat grinder. They're trying to be respectful, and they're keeping you in abeyance just in case this person that they're interested in turns down the job or doesn't start. So they might keep you fluid in that way. But in government, it's a little bit different. In government, when I hear about an easy interview, number one is you may be well prepared for it. Number two is they tend to be pretty standardized in their interviewing because they don't want to appear as being bigoted. So everyone gets the same questions. They meet certain minimum standards. And the result winds up being that it was easy for you. And everyone who they may have interviewed may have seemed easy to, or not everyone had that impression. So recognize that with the government, it's a little bit different. They're very regimented, particularly at the federal level, and thus that standardization may not give them enough to really make a decision. You may get another interview out of it, but they're minimally trying to eliminate people who can't meet that base benchmark that exists. So we'll know soon enough, won't we? Last question for today. What is LinkedIn cover story? I haven't done this yet with my profile. I'm going to do this later today. But cover stories is a new feature on LinkedIn that you have to work with on the mobile app to set up, but then it's viewable on the desktop and mobile. What it is a short video, 30 seconds in length. And when someone logs onto your profile, supplants your profile picture temporarily. And it's a message from you about you and your expertise. So for example, when I record this, I'm going to say something to the effect of, "Hi, I'm Jeff Altman, and I'm a career and leadership coach. And in doing so, I help people perform at a high level in a number of ways professionally, with the job search, hiring more effectively, managing and leading workplace-related issues in general." And I'll talk a little bit about my background and then say, take a look at my profile. I think there's a lot there that will interest you, and then encourage them to contact me. You do the same thing. It's a great new feature. Now, if I'm someone with a thick accent, I'm a little reluctant about using this because it can become a basis for discrimination. And there are people who won't care about your accent, and there are some who will. I defer to those of you who have the accents. You know what your experience is like. I don't. And you know Americans are fussy about that. And some will react in that way and not contact you. And the search firms may react in that way and not contact you. And there are ways I know you know how to communicate clearly. And that's important here. If it involves slowing down your speech ever so slightly to negate the accent, do that. But it's a new feature that temporarily supplants your profile picture to allow you to give a 30-second commercial for yourself about you and your experience and interests. And thus you can tell people about what you'd be looking for if you were to consider something else. Hope you found today's office hours helpful. If you've got a question for me, I'm just going to take a quick look in chat and see if someone put something in there. And if not, we'll bring it to an end. If you've got a question for me, send it to me by email at thebiggamehunter@gmail.com. In the subject line, put the phrase office hours or career coach office hours, or I've got a question for you, something that lets me know what it's about. And I'll be in touch with you either during the week or no later than Friday. Also want to mention my new features. Tech Jobs Tuesday at noon. I'm reading job descriptions in technology. And if you work for a firm that's trying to hire someone and it's a tech job, you can send me, hey Terry, you can send me a short job description, 5 lines, how someone can reach you, compensation level. Email it to the same address, thebiggamehunter@gmail.com, and thus be able to have me do a live read on Tuesdays at noon. No more than 2 per firm, please. Search firms, recruiters, corporations, Tech Jobs Tuesday is a way that I'll put out information about open recs you have. Hope you have a terrific day, and most importantly, be great.